Hello, everybody. Welcome to Flight Past. My name is Simon, and today we are going to continue our journey following Napoleon from his exile. We started off in Elba, which is here, and he landed in France at the Gulf Juan, which is here, and then moved from there to Caen and then up to Grasse, and was trying to avoid the area of Provence and Marseille, and he was trying to get to Grenoble, which is here. And so he comes over the mountains at Digne, this area here, which we've covered in previous episodes. And we managed to get to a place called La Fraye. In the previous stream, which I believe is somewhere around here. In this area here. There, La Fraye, this place here. So what we're going to do, I did continue talking in the last live stream on Twitch, and then when I went back to have a look at the video, I realized that everything from La Fraye, my mic was muted. So that was the classic YouTube balls up. Now I'm just going to, now I realize we're not getting the game audio. There we go. Should have the audio now. So we've got some gremlins in the works. So anyway, let's plan what we're going to do today, so that you guys know what's happening. We'll start off from La Fraye, and we're trying to get to, but we're not going to get to Paris. This is where let's try that again. We're trying to get to Paris from La Fraye. As you can say, this, you can see this is completely well prepared. So we'll go from set that as the departure, and we'll go to head towards Paris as an arrival, and we'll follow Napoleon's route. He ends up going to Grenoble, and then he heads from Grenoble to I believe it's Lyon, which is here. And from Lyon he then moves to Auxerre, and then eventually into Paris. But there was an area I wanted to show, which is here, called Lons-le-Saunier. So we'll put that there. So we'll probably get to about here on our journey, and just for show you where his route would be in. So this is the sort of route we're going to fly, but we'll just do this first section here to Lons in this stream. So let's start the flight. We're in the Huey. Hope you're all good. If you're not used to these streams, basically what we do is we use Microsoft Flight Simulator to investigate periods of history. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has the satellite imagery and the photogrammic imagery, and that enables us to use things like the Huey and drone cameras to get outside of the cockpit and have a look at the terrain and see how the topography and the distances would have affected history. For those who are new to the channel, this is a playlist that is all about Waterloo and the journey from Elba of Napoleon to Waterloo. It's called the 100 Days, and we've previously done playlists on just specifically D-Day, where we've been able to use the Huey and other aircraft to investigate aspects of D-Day. Microsoft Flight Simulator has been taking a long time since the last update to load things. We are in. And what I also do in these things is, just so that people know, is I actually hand fly the aircraft all the time. So it's not pre-recorded, everything is live. And it's a discussion of history, it's not a lecture, so you know, if you feel that there's aspects that I've got wrong, then let me know. But this is where we left in the last episode, which I believe was part 9, so if you're watching back on YouTube, this is part 10, welcome. And this is the point at Lafray. This is where members of the 5th line confront Napoleon for the first time since his journey from Elba. He's landed in the Gulf Juan. He's bypassed some of the forts on the coast. He's decided not to go to Marseille. He's decided to head over the mountains in, so it's the Alps, in March. So the time that he does is he leaves Elba on about the 26th of February. He arrives on the coast on the 1st and marches towards Grenoble, and that's by about the 6th. So he's taken about 6 days to get to here. It's so you can see the distance he's travelled there from the coast. He's taking about 6 days to do. And when no one's stopping him up to here. There is no one to stop him. There's only local mayors and things like that. There's no one who's going to stop him. He has got 1,000 troops. He's got about 650 of the old guard. He's got about 110 Polish lancers and other a couple of cannon. But it's at this point here at the end of this lake on the left hand side, like we discussed in the last part, is where these soldiers of the 5th line meet him. It's a battalion of the 5th line with some engineers. So he is blocked by them, and with a combination of appealing to their old loyalties, combination of lying as well. He actually lies to say that he's been called to Paris by the French government and also the members of the Congress to return to power. And it's this grassy area here, this where this road is here, this area to our left, right here, is where that occurred. The 7th Regiment of the Line were also in the area, and they were commanded by Colonel Labedoyer. And so because the officer in charge of the 5th Line Battalion did order his troops to fire, but they basically didn't, that's when we get that famous scene where he stands in front of these soldiers and says, "Soldiers of the 5th, you can shoot your emperor if you dare. Do you not recognize me as your emperor? Am I not your old general? And it is not ambition which brings me among you. The 45 best heads of government of Paris have called me from Elba, and my return is supported by the first 3 powers of Europe." And so he adds that sort of lie into the mix, and of course the 5th Line refused to fire, flocked towards him, calling "Vive l'Empereur," and that's where we left the last video. And this is when the gamble that Napoleon has done, he begins to realize that he's probably going to pull it off. He is in a Bonapartist area, the Dauphin, so he's using the civilians' lack of enthusiasm for the Bourbon monarchy to his advantage. So he follows this road, which you can see here, down, and you can see in the distance the city of Grenoble, and so we'll follow this road now down into the valley and follow Napoleon's triumphant entry into Grenoble. La Fraye is about 15 miles to the south. And all these quotes I've taken from here. That last quote was from his. It was a correspondence of Napoleon, his volumes that he wrote in exile in St. Helena. So you can take obviously some of it with a pinch of salt. But what it means, as we come down, you can see how this whole terrain is. Would have been very easy to kettle Napoleon into this terrain. How important that point was there. So this area was one of the most important places in French history at the time, and it could have been very, very different if the 5th Line had not had shot the emperor. And we remember the poem that I've been reading out. It was from a pamphlet that was spread around in Paris at the time. It was, if I remember rightly, it was. I love it, this one, because it's such a wonderful summary of the feelings of the people, the citizens of France. So it basically starts. It says, "What news, ma foi? The tiger has broken out of his den." So he's the monster was 3 days at sea. The wretch has landed at Fréjus. The brigand has arrived at Antibes, and the invader has reached Grenoble. So we're at that stage where he is the invader now. He's been the first troops sent to stop him have not helped. In fact, what's happened is his 1,000 troops that he did have have now the ranks have grown by about 3,000 troops, and so he's now got about 4,000 troops under his command. But the thing is with France is the couriers are going backwards and forwards, so the news is always going to be, especially if they've got a cenotaph thing from Lyon. There's the news is always getting ahead of where he is. He can't outrun that, and so it's almost sort of like a wave of information is heading up France. Rumors are spreading, and the more they hear about how he's unstoppable, the more they just change their tune. And this is Grenoble here, and this is one of the examples. You know, when Napoleon arrives here, we're talking around about the 6th of March of 1815. Suddenly, Grenoble, all the Bourbon flags are removed, and the tricolor is out, and Napoleon marches into this city without a shot being fired. And this is where, from Napoleon's memoirs, he says that before Grenoble I was an adventurer, and at Grenoble I was a ruling prince. So as far as he's concerned, that showdown back at La Fraye has tested him, tested the waters, tested whether the people would accept him back, and he's getting the feedback that his gamble is going to pay off. So, so he now heads from here. He'll head to Lyon. So what we'll do is we'll follow the route to Lyon that he takes. And remember, this is around about the 6th of March. On the 11th of March, 1815. Wellington tells his Prime Minister Viscount Castlereagh. He actually says, "It's in my opinion that Bonaparte has acted upon false or no information, and that the king would destroy him without difficulty and in a short time." And Wellington is right in that sense, that if the troops had wanted to stop Napoleon, it would have been possible. It would have been possible here at La Fraye. It would have been possible later on when he gets... but it needed the willingness of the troops. And Wellington does add to this letter that he sends to the Prime Minister, he does sign off with the classic sort of cover my back kind of thing, saying, you know, if he does not, then the affair will be a serious one. Now the Congress of Vienna, they are discussing this, and they basically declare that the act of Napoleon leaving Elba and coming back to France is an illegal one. And basically what it is saying that they have voided the Treaty of Fontainebleau. And this is the treaty which enacted his abdication, Napoleon's abdication. Just going to speed this helicopter up a little bit. We're going a little bit slow. And that's maybe because it's the Treaty of Fontainebleau. That's maybe why Napoleon will be heading back to Fontainebleau. This treaty was one that was signed on the 11th of April 1814, and what was important about this is it basically established between Napoleon and Austria, Hungary, and Bohemian states, Russia and Prussia, a treaty that basically ratified Napoleon's end to being an emperor and his exile to Elba. And this is where it strips Napoleon of his ruler of the French Empire, but allows Napoleon to keep his titles. His Marie-Louise is allowed to keep her title as Empress, and he's allowed to keep his title as Emperor. And he's given the it also means that which is another interesting thing, it denies Napoleon's successors family members and prohibits them from attaining power in France. The 21 articles of this treaty also gave or establishes Elba as a separate principality that could be ruled by Napoleon, and Elba's sovereignty and flag is given recognition, and it was also decreed that only France could assimilate the island. And in another part of the agreement, the Duchy of Parma, the Duchy of Placentia, the Duchy of Gustavia was ceded to the Empress Marie-Louise, and moreover, the direct descendant of the Empress Marie-Louise would be known as the Prince of Parma, Palencia, and Gustavia. And it also set about establishing a pension, an income, where the Empress Josephine's annual income was reduced to 1 million francs, and Napoleon had to surrender all his estates in France to the French crown, and to give back all of his jewels. And this was allowed him to take his bodyguard with him. So this treaty was ratified, and some of the signatories on this were Caulaincourt, who was the Duke of Vicenza, Marshal MacDonald, Duke of Tarentum, Marshal Ney, who we'll come to soon, Duke of Elkington, Prince Metternich, Count Nesselrode, and Baron Hardenberg. The British position just make sure I'm not going the wrong way. The British position was, you notice that the British didn't actually sign this agreement, because they were of the opinion that France at the time was in a state of rebellion, and that Napoleon Bonaparte was a usurper. and Lord Castlereagh wouldn't sign on behalf of the king of the United Kingdom, because he to do so would be to recognise the legitimacy of Napoleon as an emperor of France, or had been an emperor of France. And they also believed that exiling him to Elba was it was too close to France and Italy, and that his presence there would be too easy to it would be too easy for him to be brought back to re-establish a conflict, would come back in. It was too close. But so by Napoleon coming back onto the continent, onto France, the mainland, he basically has breached this treaty. And so the Allies, who are in support of the Bourbon king, they decide to declare him an outlaw. He's broken this convention, and he's therefore forfeited his claims. And this is when the Congress will pass a resolution to say that Napoleon is a verdict public. And this resolution was signed, we're talking around about 13th of March 1815. It was signed by Russia, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Prussia, Austria, and Britain. And it says, and this is what it says, in reappearing in France with projects of troubles and upheavals, he has deprived himself of the protection of the laws and manifested in the face of the universe that it cannot have peace with him. The powers declare that Napoleon Bonaparte is placed outside civil and social relations, and that as an enemy and disturber of the peace of the world, he has delivered himself over to la verdict public. So we are on our way to Lyon, and with it coming up to about 30 minutes, I think this is a good time to have a quick break. And I will, for those watching on Twitch, and for those on YouTube, it will be broken into parts, and it will come back in part, or this will be part 11 coming up. And I'll see you in a moment.